The day began like any other. Morning light spilled over New York, London, and Beijing, cities buzzing with life. The sound of car horns, laughter, and the chatter of markets filled the air. Across the world, people woke up, checked their phones, made coffee, and stepped into another ordinary day. No one noticed when, high above the clouds, the color of the sky began to shift. It started faintly, a pinkish hue at the horizon. Pilots reported strange glows around their aircraft. Satellites blinked in and out of contact. Then, at 9:07 a.m. Eastern Time, every screen on Earth, from phones to stadium jumbotrons, flickered black. For 5 seconds, there was silence. Then a single phrase appeared in blinding white letters. "Surrender or be erased." The message repeated in every major language. People froze in disbelief. Some laughed nervously, thinking it was a hacker or a movie promotion. But when power grids began to fail across continents, laughter died. Within minutes, global communication networks went dark. GPS failed. Military satellites lost control. In the command center of NORAD, technicians shouted over alarms as screens filled with static. Then, one by one, the radar blips appeared. Hundreds, thousands. Objects entering the atmosphere at impossible speeds. The sky turned red, not from sunset, but from burning plasma. Massive shadows appeared above the clouds, blotting out the sun. They weren't meteors. They were ships, alien ships. Each one was the size of a mountain, shaped like jagged black crystals that pulsed with crimson light. The largest positioned itself over Washington, D.C. Its surface shimmered as beams of light reached toward the ground, scanning, measuring, searching. People ran into the streets, pointing up at the impossible. News anchors trembled live on air. The world was watching its own doom arrive. At 9:21 a.m., the President of the United States authorized a global defense response. Across the planet, missiles were launched. Fighter jets scrambled. The sky filled with streaks of fire. But as the first missiles reached the alien ships, they simply vanished. The explosions never came. The projectiles hit invisible barriers and dissolved into light. "Shields," whispered General Carter in NORAD, disbelief freezing his words. "They've got energy shields." The aliens made no demands, no speeches. Instead, they fired. From their ships came beams of pure energy slicing through the upper atmosphere. Satellites, thousands of them, shattered into fragments. The International Space Station turned into a brief spark in the night sky. Humanity's eyes in space were gone in less than 10 minutes. Cities watched the skies burn. In Paris, crowds flooded the Seine. In Tokyo, the emergency system failed before the first warning even sounded. In Moscow, air raid sirens screamed for the first time since the Cold War. And then, silence. The aliens stopped firing. A low hum rolled across the air, deep enough to make windows vibrate and hearts skip. People clutched their ears. Dogs howled. The sky pulsed red again, and through the clouds, something began to descend at slow, deliberate, mechanical. The first alien dropship. It looked like a massive insect forged from obsidian, its wings folding as it broke through the atmosphere. It landed in the ruins of Washington, its metal claws digging into the earth. The ground shook, the world held its breath, deep under Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado, NORAD Command Bunker. The lights flickered as a group of engineers and soldiers watched the invasion unfold on cracked monitors. The air was thick with static, fear, and disbelief. Lieutenant Mara Hayes leaned over a console. "Sir, all major satellites are gone. Global comms down. Europe's offline." General Carter stood still, eyes locked on the radar. "How many ships in orbit?" "Unknown, sir. At least 300 confirmed. Possibly more. Any contact attempts?" "None successful." "But," Mara hesitated, "something strange. There's movement in the old defense grid systems. Project Sentinel is showing activity." Carter turned sharply. "That project was terminated 20 years ago. It's online, sir. Someone or something reactivated it." Before Carter could respond, the comms panel crackled. A cold mechanical voice echoed through the bunker. "Project Sentinel reactivation complete. Global defense override initiated. Human command protocol engaged." The soldiers stared at one another. The voice wasn't human. It was an old AI, one of Earth's experimental defense programs buried after the Cold War. No one had touched it in decades. Sentinel, Carter said carefully. Identify yourself. Designation Sentinel-01, status active. Enemy incursion detected. Can you fight them? He asked. Affirmative. Preparing countermeasures. Authorization required. Carter exhaled slowly. Then authorize everything. Warning lights bathed the room in red. Massive metal doors sealed the bunker. Dozens of old missile silos, long decommissioned, powered up again. Hidden railguns deep under the Rockies hummed with energy. The world thought Project Sentinel was dead. But it had been waiting, watching. Humanity stands alone, but not unarmed. The words sent a chill through everyone in the bunker. Carter stared at the monitor showing the alien dropship touching down in Washington, D.C. Smoke and lightning surrounded it. They think they can erase us, he muttered. Let's show them what Earth does to invaders. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. The first alien soldier stepped out of the dropship. Tall, armored. Inhuman, its eyes glowing like molten glass. It looked at the burning sky, then at the city before it, and far below, deep in the heart of the mountain, Project Sentinel began to wake. The battle for Earth had just begun. Smoke covered the city like a shroud. Washington, D.C., were the capital of the free world, was no longer a city. It was a graveyard of twisted metal, ash and fire. Buildings that had stood for centuries were now shadows under a red sky. The great monuments were burning. The American flag over the Capitol fluttered weakly, half melted from heat. The first Varric dropship had landed in the National Mall. Its hull gleamed like liquid glass, absorbing the flames around it. From within, alien soldiers emerged, tall, skeletal figures wrapped in shimmering armor that seemed to shift like smoke. Their movements were unnaturally smooth, their eyes burning with golden light. Each step they took echoed like thunder. The streets were filled with screams and sirens. Soldiers fired everything they had, rifles, tanks, anti-air missiles, but the weapons did nothing. Bullets curved away mid-air, melting before impact. Explosions rippled harmlessly against invisible barriers. General Roberts, commander of the city's defense, stood on the steps of the Pentagon watching in horror as his men were torn apart by beams of pure energy. They're phasing through armor, a soldier shouted beside him. Fall back, Roberts yelled. Pull every unit to the river. Fall back! But retreat meant nothing. The aliens didn't chase. They simply advanced, methodical and patient, destroying anything in their path. They weren't fighting to conquer. They were cleansing. 600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House. President Keller sat in the bunker beneath the West Wing, surrounded by trembling staff and flickering monitors. His face was pale, his hands still. Secret Service agents stood ready, though everyone knew there was nowhere safe left to run. Mr. President, his communications officer whispered, global lines are dead. We've lost contact with NATO, the EU, and Asia. London and Moscow are dark. Keller closed his eyes. So it's everywhere. The power flickered again. They sound like thunder rolled overhead. Not weather, but weapons fire. Keller straightened his tie, then turned to his aide. Patch me to the emergency broadcast channel. If this is our last transmission, the world deserves to hear it. Moments later, across surviving TV networks, radio signals and digital frequencies. His voice echoed to anyone still listening. This is President Keller. If you can hear me, you are not alone. Stay underground. Stay together. Humanity has faced darkness before, and we will face it again. We do not surrender. We are Earth. The speech lasted less than 2 minutes before static consumed it. The bunker lights went out. Far beneath the Rocky Mountains, Project Sentinel came fully online. Commander Jonathan Reeves, the man who had once overseen Sentinel's creation decades ago, stood in the control room, watching alien telemetry flood the screens. His hair was grey now, his uniform dusty from years of forgotten service. He had never thought he'd see this day. The AI's voice echoed through the speakers, calm and mechanical. Varric Dominion units detected in global positions. Atmospheric control fields established. Estimated planetary collapse in 72 hours. Reeves clenched his jaw. Not if we hit first. Sentinel, he said. Activate satellite uplink. I need visuals. Uplink impossible. Satellite network destroyed. Then use radar. Use anything left that moves. Blurry outlines appeared. Hundreds of red markers over every major city. The Varric were spreading, forming a global grid. One scientist, Dr. Lena Patel, leaned over the console. "Sir, look at this pattern. It's not random. They're tuning something. Frequencies, maybe?" Reeves frowned. "You mean, like sound?" "Possibly. These readings show resonance, low-level vibrations moving through the atmosphere. Could be part of their technology." Reeves stared at the map. "Get me a full analysis. I want to know what makes them tick." Back in Washington, the Varric soldiers marched through the ruins, their movements eerily synchronized. They were searching for something. Data, maybe, or human command centers. Drones hovered around them, scanning everything. The frequency shifted into a deep, trembling note, almost like a heartbeat. The alien soldiers turned sharply. Their armor shimmered. One staggered back, letting out a strange screech, one not mechanical but alive, terrified. The sound of the radio made their bodies vibrate violently before they recovered and blasted the building apart. The survivors ran. But the moment had been noticed, and far away in Cheyenne Mountain, the sensors of Project Sentinel lit up. "Anomaly detected," said the AI. "Varic resonance destabilized by terrestrial frequency." Reeves turned toward Dr. Patel. "Play that again." She replayed the signal, a recorded heartbeat mixed with background radio static. The AI responded immediately. "Unknown human frequency, causing minor Varic disruption. Possible weakness." Reeves's eyes widened. "They're afraid of it." Meanwhile, the president's convoy raced through the burning streets toward the Potomac. Explosions lit the night. Secret Service agents shouted as alien drones closed in. One car flipped into the river from a plasma strike. Another exploded against a wall. Keller's vehicle skidded into the Lincoln Memorial steps, smoke filling the air. He stumbled out, blood on his forehead, looking up at the glowing ships. "What do you want from us?" he shouted hoarsely. "What did we ever do to you?" A beam of red light struck the memorial behind him. The world went white. That night, satellite debris fell through the atmosphere like burning stars. In the mountains, Reeves watched through the monitors as cities disappeared one by one. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried the weight of every life lost. "If they fear sound," he said quietly, "we'll find the sound that makes them scream." He turned to the team. "From now on, Project Sentinel is humanity's command center. The governments are gone. It's just us now." Dr. Patel nodded slowly. "What do we call this operation?" Reeves looked at the flickering screen, showing the last images of Washington burning under a crimson sky. "Call it what it is," he said. "The war for Earth." And somewhere in orbit, high above the burning planet, the Varic fleet began to shift formation, preparing for the next wave. The sky would burn again. The world was falling apart. Cities that once shined with light were now nothing but smoldering ruins. The oceans boiled under the heat of alien engines. Communication between continents was gone. Cables severed, satellites burned, airwaves silent. Humanity had gone dark. But in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, deep beneath layers of rock and steel, something was still alive. Project Sentinel. The hidden bunker was one of the last functioning command centers on Earth. Inside, the air was heavy with tension and sweat. Soldiers, engineers, and scientists worked in near silence. Screens flickered, showing fragments of data scavenged from destroyed satellites. Commander Jonathan Reeves stood before a cracked display, his face lit by its dim glow. "We've lost DC, London, Moscow, and Beijing," he said. "They're moving west. Denver's next." His voice was steady, but everyone could hear the weight behind it. Denver was the last major city standing west of the Mississippi. If it fell, so would the last organized human defense. Dr. Lena Patel, hair tied back and eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, turned from her terminal. "Sir, the frequency anomaly from Washington. I think we found something real." Reeves walked closer. "Show me." She pulled up a waveform on the screen, jagged peaks pulsing in rhythm. "We recorded this during the fall of DC, a low-frequency signal from a damaged police radio." The aliens reacted violently to it. Reeves frowned. "What frequency is that?" "Around 4.2 hertz, extremely low. It matches the average human heartbeat." Reeves blinked. "You're saying they're afraid of our heartbeat?" "Maybe not afraid," Patel said softly, "but something in that rhythm disrupts their systems. We tried replicating it when we played it through the base's comms, The Varric drones monitoring our perimeter glitched for several seconds. Reeves looked at the scientists around the room. "Second, we weaponize it?" Patel hesitated. "If we amplify it enough, yes. But we'd need massive speakers, power grids, and broadcast towers. Most of those are gone." Reeves leaned over the console. "Then we use what's left. Denver still has old broadcast stations. If we can get the signal strong enough, maybe, just maybe, we can give the Varric a taste of fear." Outside, the Varric forces were closing in. Alien ships hovered above the plains, casting enormous shadows over what remained of the cities. Columns of Varric infantry moved through the ruins, their movements perfectly in sync, their armor gleaming red in the burning light. Every hour, another human outpost fell silent. But in the underground tunnels leading out of Colorado Springs, resistance fighters were preparing. They were a mix of soldiers, miners and civilians, people who refused to die quietly. They called themselves the Last Line. Reeves stood before them, a rough map spread across a steel table. "We hold them here," he said, pointing to Denver. "We draw their attention, and when they get close enough, we hit them with the frequency." One soldier, Sergeant Alvarez, grinned grimly. "With what, sir?" "Car speakers and stadium sound systems." Reeves didn't smile. "Exactly that." The room went silent. Then slowly nods spread around the room. "We don't have ships. We don't have shields," Reeves said. "But we have something they'll never understand. The sound of a human heart that refuses to stop." That night, the convoy rolled toward Denver. Trucks loaded with old radio transmitters, amplifiers, and generators rumbled through the darkened highways. Fighters on rooftops set up loudspeakers scavenged from concerts, churches, and sports arenas. The city was silent except for the faint hum of engines and the distant rumble of thunder, though everyone knew it wasn't thunder, it was the Varric. As dawn broke, the red sky glowed again. Alien ships appeared on the horizon, towering silhouettes that blotted out the rising sun. "They're here," Alvarez whispered. The first beam struck the outskirts of the city, vaporizing entire blocks. The ground shook like an earthquake. Reeves stood on top of the old mile-high stadium, headset on, eyes fixed on the sky. "Power up the grid," he ordered, generators whirred to life. Electric arcs sparked through broken cables. The sound system hummed, waiting for input. Patel's voice came through the radio. "Frequency ready. Once we start, there's no turning back." Reeves took a deep breath. "Then let's make them remember us." He pressed the button. At first there was silence. Then a deep, slow rhythm filled the air. Thump, 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 the heartbeat of humanity. The sound rolled through the streets, vibrating windows echoing through the mountains. The Varric ships hesitated, their energy shields flickering. The heartbeat grew louder, louder. Alien drones began to twitch mid-air, losing control. Ground soldiers staggered, clutching their heads. Their golden eyes flickered like dying embers. "It's working!" Patel shouted over the radio. "They're destabilizing." Reeves watched in awe as one of the smaller ships above the city began to crack, its crystalline armor shattering like glass. The ship exploded, raining debris across the suburbs. The defenders cheered. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had struck back. But victory came with a price. The Varric retaliated. Their largest ship opened fire, energy beams ripping through downtown Denver. Buildings collapsed, shock waves tearing through the resistance lines. "Keep the signal going," Reeves yelled. "Don't stop." Power grids began to overload. Sparks erupted from transformers. Generators exploded. Still, they didn't turn it off. As the sky burned above them, the heartbeat of humanity thundered across the plains, raw, defiant, unstoppable. Hours later, the city lay in ruins. But the Varric were gone. Their ships had retreated into the upper atmosphere, damaged and silent. Denver was a graveyard but also a symbol. In the silence that followed, Reeves stood among the ashes, headset still humming faintly. "They came for our world," he said softly. But they felt fear. Real fear. Dr. Patel stood beside him, staring at the broken skyline. "If we can make them afraid," she whispered, "we can make them run." Reeves looked up at the clouds glowing faint red from the retreating ships. "Then that's what we'll do," he said. "We'll turn our heartbeat into a weapon, and somewhere above Earth, inside the alien flagship, The Varric commanders hissed in panic. Their sensors showed a pattern, a sound unlike anything they had known. It was the rhythm of Earth itself, and it terrified them. Smoke still curled over Denver's ruins when the message spread. The aliens bled. For the first time since the invasion began, the Varric Dominion had suffered losses. Their ships had cracked, their troops faltered, and their retreat had been witnessed by hundreds of surviving soldiers and civilians hiding beneath the city. The impossible had happened. Humanity had made them hurt. Commander Jonathan Reeves stood on the roof of a shattered skyscraper at dawn, looking at the twisted skyline. The air smelled of metal and ash. Fires burned where homes once stood. Below him, survivors were gathering. Soldiers, engineers, and ordinary people with soot-covered faces and shaking hands. They looked up to him like he was their last candle in the dark. Dr. Lena Patel joined him, holding a scorched datapad. "We've decoded some of the energy patterns from the alien wreckage," she said quietly. "That frequency we used in Denver, it's not just hurting them. It's triggering something." Reeves turned to her. "Something biological?" She nodded. "Yes, it's affecting their nervous systems. The Varric aren't machines, at least not fully. Their armor is alive, part of them, and our frequency sends it into chaos. It's like we're hitting a nerve." Reeves let the information sink in. "Then we've got a weapon." He looked back at the survivors. "And it's time we used it." Across the destroyed city, word spread like wildfire. Earth wasn't defenseless anymore. From underground shelters to broken radio stations, survivors tuned in to the new signal. Reeves's message echoed across the frequencies still alive. "This is Commander Jonathan Reeves of Project Sentinel. We have found a way to fight back. To anyone still alive, you are not alone. Prepare to strike. Humanity stands." His voice reached the ruins of Chicago, the deserts of Nevada, even as far as the mountains of Peru. Small resistance cells began to move. Mechanics rewired speakers from destroyed malls. Musicians tuned abandoned instruments to mimic the heartbeat tone. Pilots scavenged old military. Bases for jets that could still fly. The heartbeat of Earth was spreading. 2 days later, the Varric returned, furious, from orbit. Crimson light streaked through the sky, striking the planet's surface in precise patterns. Entire regions glowed under alien bombardment. Their ships howled through the air like predators, but this time humanity was waiting. Outside what was left of Denver, a network of field transmitters had been set up, disguised among the ruins. Dozens of massive speakers, hacked from abandoned stadiums and power plants, were buried underground. All wired to Project Sentinel's central AI. Dr. Patel stood at the command console. "Once they're within range, we broadcast at full power." Reeves nodded, his eyes locked on the darkening sky. "Let them come." The ground shook as the first Varric walkers landed, massive six-legged machines taller than buildings. Energy beams carved the streets apart. Tanks fired and were vaporized instantly. But before panic could spread, the speakers came alive. A single, slow pulse rolled through the ruins. Thump, thump, thump. The Varric paused. Their weapons flickered. The red glow in their armor dimmed. Then the frequency deepened, the sound vibrating through every shattered window, every steel beam. Alien ships above began to tremble. Their shields cracked. One by one they started falling, not burning, not exploding, just dying, their energy fading as if their very essence had been drained. Cheers erupted through the comms. Soldiers on the ground opened fire, targeting the collapsing walkers. Jets screamed overhead, dropping payloads salvaged from the last military base in Utah. For the first time since the invasion, humans were on the offensive. In orbit, the Varric command ship trembled. Within its vast halls of obsidian metal, the Varric overseer watched the chaos on holographic displays. The alien's form was tall and gaunt, covered in translucent armor that pulsed with living veins. Its golden eyes burned with hatred. "The sound," hissed one subordinate in its clicking tongue. "It matches the resonance of the old enemy." "Impossible," the overseer growled. "They are extinct. Then how do these humans know it?" Silence filled the chamber. The overseer turned toward the holographic projection of Earth. "Increase orbital fire. Burn their world until it is silent again." Back on Earth, Reeves and Patel watched as the Varric unleashed their rage. Beams of red energy tore through the sky, slicing mountains, boiling rivers. The ground cracked open under the bombardment. Power stations overloaded. We're losing the grid. A technician shouted. If this keeps up, we'll lose the frequency. Reeves slammed his hand on the console. Wrote backup power through Sentinel's core. That'll burn out the system. Then burn it! Reeves snapped. The AI's cold voice filled the bunker. Acknowledged. Rerouting all power. Warning, catastrophic failure imminent. All at once the lights dimmed. The computers began to hum. And then every speaker on Earth that still worked, from car radios to military comms, came alive with the same rhythm. Thump. 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 It was no longer just a sound. It was a roar. The frequency merged with the very pulse of the planet, earthquakes, thunder, and wind harmonizing with it. The Varick ships began to disintegrate mid-air, their metal skins shattering into dust. One massive cruiser fell over the plains, carving a burning scar across the Earth. The others followed, falling like dying stars. Humanity had turned its planet into a weapon. When the sound finally faded, the sky was filled with the debris of the Varick fleet. Burning fragments streaked across the clouds like comets. Reeves stood outside the bunker, staring up at the falling wreckage. His voice was rough but steady. We did it. Dr. Patel was quiet for a long moment. Then she said softly, They'll come again. Reeves nodded. Yes, but next time, they'll remember what fear feels like. Behind them, the survivors of Denver began to gather again, tired, wounded, but alive. Children peeked from behind broken walls, watching the glowing trails fade into the horizon. Somewhere in the distance, a single church bell rang, faint but clear, its tone perfectly syncing with the heartbeat of Earth. In orbit, what remained of the Varick fleet limped away. Broken and terrified, the Overseer watched the blue planet shrink in the distance, its claws trembling with fury. They are not ready for what follows, it hissed. But neither were we. And as the stars swallowed their retreat, Earth stood scarred but unbroken, a silent promise echoing through the void. If they ever returned, humanity would be waiting. The night sky above Earth was no longer black. It shimmered with fire, explosions, and strange lights. The alien motherships moved like enormous shadows, blotting out the stars. Trails of human missiles rose up to meet them, but only a few made it through the shields. Inside the command room of Project Sentinel, alarms echoed non-stop. Commander Hayes stood over the glowing holographic map, his eyes fixed on the swarm of red dots representing enemy ships. Every few seconds, another blue dot. A human aircraft vanished from the map. Sir, they're hitting every major city, cried Lieutenant Reed. London, Cairo, Seoul, New York, all under fire. Hayes didn't blink. Activate Operation Skystorm. A hush filled the room. Skystorm was Earth's last-ditch plan. A coordinated air and orbital strike, using all surviving jets, drones, and orbital rail cannons. It had never been tested, and most of the launch sites were half destroyed. But there was no choice. In the skies above Nevada, Captain Elena Torres piloted one of the few remaining stealth fighters. Her HUD glowed red with warnings, fuel low, weapons minimal. Command, this is Falcon 9, she said through static. I have visual on target. Alien cruiser, size of a mountain. Copy, Falcon 9, came Hayes' voice. Engage on my mark. Torres gripped the controls. Through the cockpit glass she saw the alien ship, black metal pulsing with blue veins of energy. It was beautiful and terrifying, like something alive. Its shield shimmered like liquid glass. All squadrons synchronize, Hayes commanded. Skystorm in 3, 2, 1, fire! The sky erupted. Hundreds of missiles streaked upward, leaving fiery trails. Railguns hidden in mountain ranges launched tungsten rods at hypersonic speed. Space-based drones dove from orbit, glowing like falling stars. For a moment it seemed to work. Alien shields flared under the impact. One of the smaller Varick ships exploded in a burst of light. Direct hit. We got one! Torres shouted, but then the enemy adapted. The alien ships shifted formation. Their hulls rippled and reformed, absorbing the energy strikes like liquid metal. Blue light beams slashed down, cutting through human fighters. Torres banked hard as one beam grazed her wing, sending alarms screaming. Falcon 12 is down, someone yelled over comms. We're losing control of airspace. Deep under Cheyenne Mountain, Project Sentinel's AI, codename Aegis, processed every bit of combat data. Its digital voice echoed through the command center. Prediction 87% chance of total human air defeat within 15 minutes. Hayes slammed his fist on the console. Override that. What are our alternatives? Recommendation. Deploy EMP pulse from Node Omega, range and continental. Risk a catastrophic, Hayes froze. The EMP would fry not just alien electronics, but also human power grids, communication, and even Sentinel itself. It would throw Earth into darkness. He looked around the room. Every face was watching him, waiting. Hayes took a deep breath. Do it. In the deserts of New Mexico, a hidden facility came to life. Giant coils rose from the sand, glowing with electricity. The air crackled as the EMP generators powered up. Torres heard the order come through her headset. Every screen, every satellite, every light on Earth went dark. For 30 long seconds, the planet was blind. When systems slowly came back online, the view shocked everyone. Half the alien fleet had stopped moving. Their ships hung motionless like statues. Energy shields flickered and died. EMP successful, reported Aegis in a weakening voice. Alien systems disrupted. Human forces regained control. The AI's voice stuttered, its processors frying from the pulse. Good luck. Commander. Then it went silent forever. Move. Move, move, Hayes ordered. All surviving units, hit them now. Across the world, pilots, soldiers, and even civilians joined the counterattack. Anti-air guns fired from rooftops. Fighter jets struck the frozen alien ships. For the first time, humanity was on the offensive. Torres locked onto one crippled cruiser. For Earth, she whispered. Her missile hit dead center, tearing the ship apart in a bright, burning flash. Cheers echoed across the comms. They're falling. They're actually falling. But the victory was short-lived. Above the clouds, the alien mothership, 10 times larger than the rest, began to move. Its hull cracked open, revealing a weapon unlike anything seen before. Hayes watched the satellite feed in horror. What is that? Reed's voice trembled. Sir, it's charging energy. Enormous readings. It's targeting the planet. A massive beam of red light started to gather beneath the mothership. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Torres looked up from her jet. Command, that thing's going to wipe out everything. Hayes clenched his jaw. Then we stop it, somehow. As the beam grew brighter, the world braced for annihilation, and in the burning skies of Earth, one voice echoed across the radio waves. Commander Hayes, calm and steady. Humanity does not surrender. Not today. The screen faded to static. The red beam above Earth pulsed like the heartbeat of a dying sun. Clouds turned crimson. Oceans reflected fire. Every living soul on the planet felt it, a vibration deep in their bones, as if the planet itself was trembling. High above the atmosphere, the alien mothership, the Varick Prime, opened its core. Gigantic rings rotated around a blinding sphere of energy. Lightning crackled across its hull, striking down through the sky like fiery serpents. In the command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Commander Hayes watched the feed in stunned silence. The holographic display was almost unreadable from interference. Energy output is off the charts, said Lieutenant Reed, her voice shaking. If it fires that beam, it'll burn half the planet. Hayes turned to her. How long do we have? Reed swallowed. Less than 5 minutes. Across the world, chaos reigned. Cities burned in red light. Oceans boiled near impact zones. Power grids were gone. Humanity fought back with whatever they had. Old jets, scavenged drones, even homemade rockets. Captain Elena Torres was still in the sky, her fighter barely holding together. She saw the massive mothership looming above the clouds, larger than any mountain. Command, this is Falcon 9, she said. I have eyes on the core. It's exposed. Repeat, and the core is open. Hayes's eyes snapped to the live feed. You sure? Yes, sir, she said, panting. If we can hit that core, maybe we can shut it down. But you'll never get close enough, Reed said. Their defenses are down after the EMP, Torres interrupted. At least for a few minutes. A long pause filled the room. Then Hayes gave the order. Do it. Torres pushed her throttle forward. Her fighter roared through the burning sky. She weaved between falling debris, shattered drones, and alien wreckage. Every second, the mothership's light grew brighter, almost blinding. Warning hull temperature critical, her onboard computer said. I know, she muttered. Just hold together a little longer. A swarm of alien interceptors suddenly came alive around her, their sleek shapes darting through the smoke. Even damaged, they were fast. Too fast. Lasers ripped through the air. One blast clipped her tail, sending sparks flying. Falcon 9 were reading multiple hostiles, Hayes called. Torres gritted her teeth. I see them. Evasive maneuvers. She dived low into the storm clouds, lightning flashing around her. The alien ships followed, their plasma fire lighting up the sky like 1,000 suns. She spun through the chaos, using every bit of her training. One alien ship got too close. She flipped her fighter upside down and fired backward, destroying it in a burst of blue flame. Got one, she yelled. Back in the bunker, Reed was tracking her progress. She's almost there, sir. But the mothership's beam is charging faster. Hayes's face was pale. Aegis is gone. No AI left to calculate a strike vector. We'll have to guide her manually. He grabbed the comms mic. Torres, listen carefully. When you reach the upper cloud layer, angle 20 degrees toward the north polar axis. The core will align for exactly 7 seconds. That's your shot. Copy that, Torres replied. Make it count, Hayes said quietly. The mothership's energy core was now fully exposed, a swirling red sun at the heart of a metal fortress. It hummed like thunder, shaking the clouds below. Torres rose above the smoke, her fighter trailing fire. Her targeting system flickered, struggling to lock on. Come on, come on. At last the reticle turned green, lock acquired. Do it, Falcon 9, Hayes shouted. She fired all remaining missiles. 6 streaks of light soared toward the core. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then, the mothership's shields reactivated. The missiles hit, but they detonated harmlessly against the barrier. The explosion lit the sky, but the ship remained untouched. No, Torres screamed. It's regenerating. Hayes slammed his fist. Damn it. There must be another way. Suddenly a new voice crackled through the comms, faint, distorted, metallic. Commander Hayes. This is Aegis. Hayes froze. Aegis. But the EMP systems partially restored. I found something. What is it? The Varric ships use quantum nodes. Each ship shares power through the mothership's core. Destroy one and it drains the others. Hayes leaned forward. Then how do we destroy the node? From the inside. Hayes's heart sank. The only way to kill the mothership was to go inside it, through its massive docking bay into its core chamber. He opened a private channel. Torres, there's one last chance. You'll need to breach the hull and deliver a manual warhead into the core. Torres didn't hesitate. Understood, sir. You won't make it back, Hayes said quietly. She smiled sadly. I know, but someone has to finish this. The red light from the mothership grew unbearable. It began to pulse faster, preparing to fire. Torres dived straight into the storm, engines screaming. Alien interceptors swarmed after her, firing wildly. Her shields failed. Her cockpit cracked. She broke through the last layer of clouds and saw it, a massive opening in the ship's underbelly, glowing with blue light. Target in sight, she whispered. Godspeed. Falcon 9, Hayes said. She pulled the release switch. The small nuclear warhead dropped from her fighter, spinning into the light. The aliens detected it too late. A brilliant white explosion filled the mothership's core. The sky turned to fire. The shockwave hit Torres's jet, sending it spiraling down through the clouds. On the ground, people across the planet looked up to see the impossible, the alien mothership splitting apart like a cracked sun. Inside the bunker, Reed whispered, She did it. Hayes closed his eyes. She saved us, but the joy didn't last. The holographic map flared red again. New signals appeared, smaller ships emerging from the mothership's debris. Reed's face went pale. Sir, they're not retreating. They're multiplying. Hayes stared at the screen in disbelief. The mothership wasn't destroyed, he said softly. It was reborn. Outside, the sky turned red once more. The world watched in stunned silence. The alien mothership, the one Captain Elena Torres had sacrificed herself to destroy, was breaking apart above Earth. Its massive sections drifted through the clouds like fiery islands. But from within the wreckage, something new began to emerge. It started as a faint blue glow. Then thousands of smaller ships poured out, black, sharp, and alive. They moved like insects, rebuilding themselves in the air. Each one linked to the next through beams of red energy. Lieutenant Reed whispered, They're not dying. They're replicating. Commander Hayes stared at the holographic feed, rebuilding themselves using the debris. Correction, came the weak digital voice of Aegis, the damaged AI. Varric swarm protocol detected. This is not reconstruction. This is evolution. The swarm spread fast. Within minutes, they were over every continent, small, fast, and deadly. Each ship released red drones that dived into cities, attacking anything that moved. In London, a group of survivors hid inside a subway tunnel. The ground shook as drones blasted through the streets above. The air smelled like smoke and burning steel. A boy asked his mother, "Mom, are the soldiers coming?" She held him close and whispered, "They already came, baby." Now we pray. Inside the Cheyenne bunker, chaos ruled. Communication lines were gone again, satellites down. Earth's forces were blind. Hayes gripped the table, his knuckles white. We can't fight a swarm that heals itself every second. What's the weakness, Aegis? Analyzing. The AI's voice stuttered. Swarm powered by residual core energy. Energy frequency suggests dependency on central link, a signal beacon still active in orbit. Reed looked up. So if we destroy the beacon, the swarm dies? Correct. Without the beacon, all Varric units lose connection and fall. Hayes's eyes narrowed. Then that's our target. But there was a problem. The beacon was in orbit, high above the planet, spinning near the remains of the mothership.